Hey there, friends. Take two. Okay, and the mic's working this time. That's so much better. Thank you for joining me in my disgrace of a laundry room. I did my best to cover it up last time. This time, I simply don't have energy. There is a pretty serious. Well, I consider it to be a serious psyop. I'm not concerned for the reasons that most people are. However, I do think that it is indicative of greater turmoil to come. The fact that we have this supposed atmospheric studying privately owned weather balloon from China that like totally oopsie ended up in our airspace. And now the government is basically saying like, yeah, we're just gonna leave it there. We're just gonna see. We're just gonna see what happens. And I don't think that's necessarily the best take for it. I think we need to be a little more intentional about how we approach this. Now, I'm a little bit torn. I'm curious what other people would think. Do we, our military, right, has become rather feckless, ineffective. I mean, it's become like a mockery to the point where we have actual furries um, that are wearing their uniform with their furry tail attached. Like we've gotten to a level of ridiculous that's like beyond any parody movie that you can think of. And so we're not a threat to the world anymore. If other countries are so bold as to like fly gigantic sized balloons where we can clearly see it, I think they're kind of asking for trouble. They're measuring our response, and what we're learning is that we've kind of been invaded like fifth generational warfare style. This is an interesting time to be alive. That's what I want to say. It is an interesting time to keep going here. So we have these weather balloons that are up in the sky, right? And I'm not surprised that these things happen. I have been calling it since earlier today that because of the date, because it's February 3rd, it's 2-3. Because we look at occult symbology, and I've gone over in a decode that this year, unfortunately, 2023, is going to be a year out of death, destruction, war, and those types of things. The year that we're currently in, according to the calendar that we can't believe, is the year 2023, supposedly. And so when we're looking at numerology, 0 is basically a placeholder, and we're reducing this number down. So when we reduce the year 2023 down, we take the 0 out. And then we are left with 223. Now, because occult, practices, they are so tough to try to talk with. Because occult practices say that it's the same backwards as it is forward. When we get down to 223, we remove the placeholder. We can then flip that over. Mirror image is 322. When we look at 322, that's most closely associated with the Skull and Bones fraternity, to which a number of our presidential both candidates and actual presidents, people that have run for various political offices, men that are higher up in our military infrastructure, those types of men will generally be part of this kind of Skull and Bones cult or cult society, perhaps, that centers a lot of their practices around death. Not to be totally morbid, but we are in their year. I expect things to get only a little crazier from here. And not that I think that there's necessarily an existential threat, but whenever the big guys start to flex their muscles, it's always the peasants that get caught up in it. It's, all wars are bankers' wars. So we're again sending young men to fight old men's wars, and we're sending young men and women now off to die wearing their fuzzy furry tails because that's their gender identity. We've gone so far off the deep end. Our military is supposed to protect us from like spyware of other countries, and they're not doing the most basic of things right now. So it's really hard to trust that in a true emergent situation that they would have the brain capacity to make the right decisions for us. Another thing we need to look at when we are considering today's date being February 3rd, which of course is abbreviated 2-3. Hey, stop eating the rug. My goodness, these dogs. It's the 34th day of the year. 34, again, we mirror image that to 43. I credit Donut with this, that he kind of brought up the peculiarities between the numbers 34 and 43. And I believe it's in reverse gematria that it's the number for murder. And so, again, we have this overarching theme. You're really going to go through where the mic's hooked up. Jeez Louise, this dog is hell-bent on... Get out. Seriously. I might have to put him outside on a lead because he's really being a giant pain in my ass. Go lay down. Go lay down. Pardon me. Sorry. I'm so gross. This allergy thing, whatever's going on here with the allergies in Kentucky, like, it does not take long before, it does not take long into the year before stuff starts to bloom. We've had some really warm days. Every time I see green, I'm like, oh, more mucus. And I can't believe that, like, my allergies are this bad after so many years of not having any. Hopefully we'll all adjust within a couple of years or so, but I don't know. So when we see these things in the news, remember that they are meant to be a distraction, and remember that, occult and secret societies that happen to center many of their practices around death rituals and almost like a weird reverence and worship of death. It's very odd the way that they run, but these are the military players of the world. These are, if you look at like the United States and other countries, a lot of times is considered a bully simply because we are the ones with the most advanced weaponry and the largest military and the most advanced yada yada shushbumba, America. I don't know that that's necessarily true anymore, and I don't know that we are seen as a threat anymore. I certainly don't feel as though the Chi-Coms feel that way, because they're sending spy balloons over here to take a look at us. I don't think they fear us. They don't fear our military presence. They don't fear this thing potentially being shot down. What our military is afraid of, and I completely understand, is they don't know what is in this thing. What if there is a new strain of COVID that actually is dangerous for all of us? Like, what if that is the thing that they are trying to hold back from us? Now, do I believe that they are out there 100% for our benefit to protect us because they're heroes? They're our everyday heroes. No, that's not where I'm going with any of this. But what I am saying is that there is a time and a place for military intervention. And this feels like it would be it. When you send your spyware over, you've kind of crossed a boundary. You've almost... It's like a soft start to a war, isn't it? I don't know. I wanted to get all of that out, guys. We have to really just watch. There's going to be a lot of PsyOps, red flag, false flag things going on, a lot of MK Ultra, Project Mockingbird. We really have to learn to read between the lines. I'm hoping to jump on a little bit more as stuff comes out because I find all of this fascinating. And I'm hoping that by decoding all of it, we demystify it. We see why these things are here. And then we take a look at, like, okay, if they want us to look up because they want us looking for this balloon, which, by the way, I'm doing because I want to see this MFer. I can't believe nobody's taken a shot at it. Like, nobody's done anything yet. That's very curious because, I know there are people and organizations that have high-powered devices that could be used for such a purpose. And I'm surprised that nobody nowhere has tried to do that, even though this thing, wow. We're moving towards a difficult time. And I really encourage people to get their head right, get their health right as much as they can. Be prepared mentally for what could potentially happen. And I think we need to do a better job of preparing our children for this potentiality. I think that we are going to move into a situation where it's almost like a WW3 situation. I think we could see this as potential, the situation today with these weather balloons as potential provocation. For me, it also kind of it confirms yet another conspiracy theory, which is that of geoengineering. We already know that weather modification is something that has existed as far back as the Vietnam War. That these technologies were available to create extra long rainy seasons to make it more difficult for them to fight a war on this front or that front. We already know that that kind of technology was available back then, and now we're talking like what, 50 years? Longer than that, my goodness. So what do you think the technology is available to do today? Now, my daughter's learning, my sixth grader is learning about weather and science, and her teacher told her that chemtrails aren't real. Her teacher told her that all it is it's condensation from the back of airplanes. And I'm like, oh, wow, this lady hasn't even bothered to look. It is super obvious and easy to access the material on NASA's own website that talks about the spraying of aerosol particulates into the atmosphere, the manipulation of said particulates via electromagnetic energy. It talks about things like barium, lithium, aluminum, all being sprayed in the sky to be studied or to be, who knows what their explanation or excuse is. It doesn't matter. It's already done been happening, and the evidence is on NASA's website. You can look up these keywords. These are not things that I like pulled out of my tuchus here. These are real websites that we can go to. These are real papers that can be downloaded. That we do not have to choose to remain in ignorance on this topic anymore. We do not have to choose to be dull and dim-witted for whatever reason people do these things. It's really curious to me how and why we have to have these kinds of discussions. But yeah, if anybody out there is listening, yes, we absolutely can engineer the weather. It's been something we can do. So yeah, that's all. Wanted to get all that out today. Don't be fooled by the psyops. Keep your family close. Get prepared for the worst. Hope for the best. And if you're the praying type, now is a great time to get on your knees. All right. Stay well, guys. Keep your head on a swivel, as I love to say. Check your six. Hold your family tight.